Lovely. Great. Oh, more pitchy friends. Wonderful. Yes, this is going to be everything you need to know. So pitching's really fun, and like it seems really stressful, but it's not, because you can like think about all the really wanky stuff that you want to do, and it's really cool, because even though you might not do all of them, you can be like, oh, but what if we have like a 10-foot raise in the annex and then get someone to shut you down later? So long as you're passionate about stuff and you've thought it through, like your pitch will be fine. Like you've just got to show why you want to do a particular show, and and if you're pitching, you probably really want to do that show anyway. So you just have to be like, no, look, this is a really cool thing. Look at all the cool things we're going to do with it. And isn't this really cool and exciting? And then get people really pumped. Also, talk about it in the pub. As soon as you've decided you're going to pitch things, tell everyone you know. Everyone you know. Your mum, your nan, course friends, and then people on TG, maybe. But as soon as you get people excited about a pitch, like, the hype grows and grows and grows. And then people really want to be in it, and they really want to do it. And then committee are like, yeah, no, let's put this on. Pitch shows! Andy!
So, in terms of direction when you are presenting your pitch, you kind of just need to think about what your vision is for the show and how you are going to get that across to the people sitting in front of you. I think quite a good way of doing that in general on your PowerPoint pitch, your spoken pitch, is to kind of include pictures and images and videos if you can find something that's similar to what you're going to be doing, just so committee can get a real idea in their heads of what the show is going to look like once it's on the stage, rather than them just kind of having some words thrown at them. Because if we're honest, no one who's sitting in front of you is going to be making notes, so you have to hold their attention with images and with phrases. Don't waste time telling everyone who you all are, because at the end of the day, everyone knows. If you've got some experience not in Southampton, but no experience in Southampton, then it's quite a good idea to just kind of outline very, very quickly, 20 seconds, what that experience is and why you'd be good at your position. And then, in terms of directorial interpretation, I mean, just in general in pitches, try and keep your slides, the words on your slides to a minimum, because the less you've got on there, the more you can kind of talk around it. Get yourself some cue cards or something. I always have cue cards. It's a lot more about appearances than it is about ideas, pitching. At the end of the day, sorry. When you do your written pitch, for TG especially, please try and find a script. Illegal PDFs are everyone's friend. If TG can't read your show, they have no idea whether it's a good show or not to start with, so just try and find something. If you're doing a cut of a classic, try and give a vague idea of what your cut's going to look like, because otherwise no one really knows what the show is going to be. It's just going to be a shorter version of this, but who knows what's being cut. So try and get something together just vaguely, so that people know what it is you're trying to achieve. And just in general, it's like so important that you have someone, generally for TG, a director, who is leading the pitch and is kind of, like, I always stand at the computer normally, because it's the only place I feel comfortable, and it's nice because the person who's leading the pitch can kind of, I don't know, I always end up going, certainly for showstoppers where there's a lot more members on a team, you have to kind of give every member of the team a slide, and then you're like, well, Fliss, it's your slide now. And that it just has a common thread, and it has something to go back to and some kind of organisational focus. And in terms of questions, have some kind of system for answering questions. It worked for H2S. I was kind of answering questions by default, or Catherine was. And then if anyone else wanted to speak, had a good answer, they'd kind of nod at us and we'd pass it to them. It just avoids everyone talking over each other, which always looked really, really bad for pitches. Like, at the end of the day, you want to be really prepared. You want to be the most prepared you can be, so that you know what is going to be thrown at you and you know exactly what the answer is. But if you're not, which does sometimes happen, having some kind of system like that where it doesn't feel like you're disorganised is much better than looking disorganised and all speaking over each other.
Producing before you pitch is really easy because really, actually, it should be the director who knows kind of vaguely what costumes they want and vaguely what props they want and vaguely what set they want. So it's like a director could write the producing part of a pitch, really. Like, it's much more about working out how you're going to do stuff. So if your show's got something difficult in it, like the games afoot, we knew we had to stab someone in the back. So we pitched with like a thought out solution to how we were going to deal with that, so people didn't read the script and go, oh shit, there's this really big problem that you've not thought about. And then we didn't have to face that during questions, because that's the worst thing. Most of our pitches we've pitched with some kind of a design beforehand. Like, even if it's just like a lot of my really lazy designs are just a stock photo and a font, it's really easy to put them together. And you don't need Photoshop, you could just do it on PowerPoint. Like, I think it makes your pitch look a lot more professional if you're coming from a position where you've pitched with a design all the way through from your written pitch all the way up to your PowerPoint, and having something like the little background on these slides just kind of was a bit more like, look, we've done this thing, it looks really great. When you're pitching, I definitely recommend putting pictures on the slides, especially for stuff like your set. So we pitch with a set design for How to Succeed and Spring Awakening, and it is so much better to like pitch knowing exactly what your set's going to look like, because you can say that right from the very beginning that's what you're directing to, rather than needing to reblock, which is really helpful. And it's also really good to give people an idea of what it might look like in the annex. It doesn't need to be like a proper sketch, it can literally just be some blocks that you've done using the shapes tool. That's also fine, that's what we did for spring. But knowing how your stuff's going to fill the annex, like talk to Stagesoc about it. You can send me a message next year and I'll do some stuff for you, that's fine. It's really helpful. If your show's got anything like movement in it, it's not so much a thing for TG, but if you've got like a specific practitioner or physical theatre style that you want to follow, I seriously recommend trying to find something on YouTube, because if you're like, I want to do some physical theatre, like it could mean anything and people are kind of a bit put off. Whereas if you can show them a video and say, oh, we want to do something like this, look, they're doing loads of lifts and loads of like extension and stuff, then I think it's a lot more helpful. Yeah, just generally, like, you need to do some research before you pitch. I know it's really boring and you might feel like you've wasted your time, but like going to the PA house before you pitch so you can say this is categorically in the PA house and I do not need to buy it is really helpful. Doing some research online, so like again for the games afoot, we needed to buy a knife that we could blunt, so I went online and found one because we thought it was going to be really expensive, and actually it wasn't. So all that kind of stuff where you can turn around and be like, no, this is fine, look, it's right here. Kind of, it just is so much more useful. Like if you think you're going to need to hire anything or borrow anything, and you can pitch saying we've spoken to this company and they'll say they'll lend us some stuff, and that's like, it feels a lot safer. Generally, like if you're going to pitch and you don't have a producer, you can do it all yourself. It's like producing is one of those things where like once you are a producer, you sound really sensible and like you know everything, but actually like I know nothing. like genuinely, it's something that anyone could do. And if you take on kind of a creative producer role, so for How to Succeed, I was in charge of all of the costumes and all of the props and all of the set, and doing all of those three things meant there was one vision that ran through it all, and it bled into our pitch as well. So like just making sure you completely understand, rather than being like, it's quite common for pitches to have kind of disparate parts and be like, and now some producing, maybe we'll do some costumes, yeah, but like trying to find someone who's really excited about it even after your pitch is really important. I think that's all I have to say.
A lot of people see budgets as this sort of scary thing that no one can do, and in reality it's just so basic, and to be honest, at the pitch most of it is going to change anyway, so don't be afraid to just ask for help. A lot of people are sometimes quite secretive about their pitches and they try and keep it under wraps, and that's absolutely the wrong thing to do, for the reasons that Andy talked about, as opposed to getting people excited. But also, if people know what's happening, and you are not quite sure on something, you can chat to people in the pub and they will help you, because if it's a show they want to be in, they're going to try and make it as successful as possible. So absolutely do go for people with your help, for help with your budget. And the other thing is, it's so important to do your research when you're budgeting as well. So if you're planning to do something, I don't know if anyone saw Iolanthe. No, that was before. Yes, a few people. Basically, lots of UV paint everywhere, and everyone just sort of, if you're going to have a specialised twist, something like that, you need to go out and you need to look at prices, and you need to have a good understanding of what you can get where, and where you can get it the cheapest. That's the easiest way to save money, as opposed to just, instead of buying the first thing you come across, if you spend about half an hour looking for it, you'll find it cheaper somewhere, I can guarantee that. So I think if we go through some pretty standard costs for every show, this is the TG budget that you can download off the website. It's quite old at this point, and a lot of it is still, there's sort of mentions of underwriting and that sort of stuff. You can completely ignore that. The underwritten system is something that doesn't exist anymore, so don't get stressed by it. Ticket sales is somewhere where people can get a bit caught off, and this is something that if you just talk to anyone that's had any experience producing, they will basically be able to tell you quite quickly what to expect in terms of ticket sales. But it's, I mean, for a TG show, I wouldn't really assume much more than 40% capacity, and that's going to be mainly PA, and then a few students and slightly less adults. Sponsorship is something that is very useful and works well with big costs. If you can go to a restaurant and say, we're going to bring 30 people here to have a meal, they'll happily throw you 200 quid, because they'll easily make that back on your meal alone, and then you're advertising for them at the same time. So sponsorship, if you're going to have a big cast, is something that can come really easily, and it's just a case of going into places on the high street and saying, can I talk to the manager? And the manager will come out, and you just have a quick conversation with them and basically say something along the lines of, yeah, our publicity is going to cost £200, would you cover it? It doesn't have to cost £200, they'll still give you the money. As long as you if you just come to them asking for £200, they probably won't give it to you, but if you can justify what you're going to spend it on, they're more likely to. Venue hire is a standard thing that will happen for every show. It's £168. And that basically just goes straight into your budget. It's the same on every single one, and that's it for the week. Other things that are going to be pretty standard most of the time will be your publicity. The cheapest place I found to buy flyers, and I think you probably as well, Instant Print. Yeah, Instant Print, you can get, instantprint.com, you can get 2,000 flyers, double-sided, for about 25 to 30 quid most of the time. Absolutely the place to go. And to be honest, I don't bother with posters, because I don't really think they make all that much of a difference around Susu, because there aren't any very prominent poster boards. They're all covering the loos to the toilets and stacks. And who's looking to go and see shows when they're on the way to the loo and stacks? That's basically all that's going to be standard from show to show. And then, and after that, it's just a case of doing your research. If you want to have a lot of decking, you're going to need to talk to someone in Stagesoc about how much decking costs. If you have a sort of tech-heavy, lots of lights, if you need a projector, that sort of thing, you need to think about these and talk to people. Most of the answers to your tech costs will be on the Stagesoc FAQ page. So absolutely look at that first before you go harassing people that have very little time and do a lot for us. When it comes to props then, basically just look through your script before you pitch and see how many things are explicitly mentioned, how many things you absolutely have to have. And from there you can sort of do a sort of half an hour on eBay or Amazon, and you'll have your costs there pretty quickly. But we don't really tend to spend more than 200 on a show that has a lot of props. So that's basically the main basics of it. But the main thing to take away is ask questions. If you need any help, ask myself. I'd be happy to sit with you. If you ask Rob, he has to.
Within 7 days.
Within 7 days, he has to come and help you out. But there are many other people, Catherine, Andy, Ruthie, so many people that will happily help you.
Yeah, I didn't even know Ollie that well when we pitched 1984, and I was like, right, who's the TG treasurer now? Ollie, write me a budget, thanks.
It takes half an hour, so anyone will help. I think that's basically everything that I wanted to say. If you go onto the TG website page, theatre.susu.org, /resources, I'm going to say you click the resources button at the top, and then go to the budget and pitching section, and there's a link.
Yes, tech things. There was this nice document which which Phoebe wrote up sometime last year. I don't know if it ever got out to anyone in TG. It was meant to. So, we as a society are not very big, so we have to sort of split how we do our shows into high and low tech. So you can see they're red and green primarily. Purple is weird. Red is what we define as high tech, by which we will do anything you want. Give us enough time and money and we'll build you a scale model of the moon. But unfortunately, we can't do that for every show as much as we'd like to. So, regrettably, for about half of TG shows through the year and anything by comedy and circus, we do a watered-down version where we provide the services outlined in this lovely document. Low-tech slot. I don't like the formatting.
Sorry.
Well, I did approve it at the time.
I'll change it for next time.
So, from a low-tech slot, things which are supposed to be low-tech were Games of Foot, Tempest, Genre Killer, if anyone saw that last year, that was supposed to be low-tech.
Was it?
Yes. What you can expect is a black box set, so just black box, a wash of lights with a few spots, something like was with Humbug Circus, if anyone saw that. Sound effects playback, so any sort of thunder, fat thunder, gunshot, anything that's not live. The use of do we have a handheld radio mic? Maybe not that.
I think it's in the coffin.
And any prefab stuff in the house which you can get your hands on, so chairs, tables, a pirate chest. But what we can't guarantee is the building of sets, so like 6 boxes or a moving bar. Complex lighting, such as like multiple coloured chasers you'll see in Showstoppers shows. Live sound mixing, so bands, but you don't do bands. Use of decks, so you wouldn't expect something like Spring. Video, it's video. Special effects like dry ice and other things such as that, and specific set builds. However, if we have enough people and we have people willing enough to go above and beyond, we can do these things, as we did with Games of Foot and Tempest and Genre Killer. So we can still do all these things, but don't expect them from us, if that makes sense. As we have got a bad habit of not saying no.
Especially when you ask us in the pub when we're a few drinks in.
Which is most of the time.
Yeah, we'd like a big white thing to fall from the rigging.
It was high-tech!
It was high tech.
It was not. Wait, that couldn't have been a hard-tech show.
That's the hardest thing I've ever done for stage.
And it looks so good.
It looked good.
94, it's beautiful.
Yes. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot. As Ollie said, there is a Stagesoc FAQ page. So yeah, sign up for the FAQ page. Stagesoc FAQs. It's there. It contains other useful things such as technical terms, vague things, what we do, deck sizes, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's almost everything. Beyond that, we do have our own website, which has some potentially useful resources buried away. So it does have this quite nice to scale diagram of the annex, which might be useful for drawing on set. Other sort of minor things, decking. There have to be handrails on things over 5 foot and stairs. Spring was special and different because we went to Susu and had a lot of talks with them, and they weren't happy. They wanted us to have crash mats and handrail. And in the end, we got them down to nothing. But yes, that took a lot of effort. So whilst it can be done, it might not. Don't rely on it. But we can do things, but give us warning. Anything to add?
Just ask, like if you can't find it in the FAQs and you think you're going to bother one of us, I mean, we're not that scary. Just come and ask any of us and we'll always, I was at a meeting earlier giving them tech advice, so just ask. And we'll always try and do it, but just don't take the piss. Don't make us paint bricks or something.
So, what happens? You throw your pitch at your committee, and then you throw tech specs at ours, which are essentially a rundown of the tech you want. Let me see if I can find an example. Where it's be like, yeah, we want 5 pieces of deck at this height with some lights. And so what these are, they're basically a summary of your pitch, the bits that we would care about. So sometimes they throw in an overview of the plot, and then what they want for the stage, with sometimes a very nice diagram. That was like that. That was a very nice diagram, outlining the tech, another pretty picture. Outline the tech you want. Then we email our members with 5 days notice saying we want you to run for this thing, and then we run an election, and if anyone runs, we elect them. If no one runs, we do eeny, meeny, miny, moe on the committee. You will get someone who will want to do it, and they will be happy for it. And then they will want to meet with you to discuss any finalising any of the tech, how much deck you actually want, sort of realising some of your expectations, bring them down if they are too high, or offering alternatives. As for Medea, they wanted wooden planks on the back wall. A sort of like image of it. So initially projection, that wasn't going to happen. Then painting, we didn't have enough people or time. Then wallpaper, but that looks awful. So then how about white paint? Things like that. And then we will sort of go away and assemble a crew and arrange hires from Susu, and then hopefully we'll show up on Show Week and nothing will go wrong.
I think 5 years is about what we say. Much Ado happened about 2010, was it? 2010?
I have no idea.
I think it was 2010. So 5 years is kind of the given thing.
Yeah, it's basically living memory. So if there are people who are still here who remember the show, then don't do it.
Unless they're a really, really old person.
Like Pee-wee.
Yeah.
Once they go, it's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would say still talk about it in the pub, because the more you talk about it, the less likely anyone else is to pitch against you. To be quite frank, the more you talk about it, more people will get scared of you and decide to pitch their show for another slot or a different year.
Plus, also, if there's more than if someone else was pitching as well, if you're talking about in the pub, people are finding out more about your show than they might necessarily find out from a pitch. So if you're talking about all the crazy stuff you want to do, sometimes you can't always fit it into your written and spoken pitches. So they're just finding about it and getting hyped and being like, oh, I can see Fresh is doing this and stuff like that.
And I think also it might give you an idea of what's going to worry people as well. So if you say, oh, this and this, and people then you can think about how you're going to respond to it in your pitch, rather than you can prepare in advance rather than waiting for a horrible question that you weren't expecting.
Just one little thing about freshers. Don't treat it like this special pitch. It's just a normal show. Treat it like a normal show and you'll put on a decent,
better show.
a much better show
Yeah.
because of it. It's important that way, yeah.
I would say it depends how you address it in your written pitch, to be honest. If you address it in great detail, you probably don't need to go over it again in your spoken pitch, but you've got to be prepared that people might ask the question, but if people need to ask the question, they probably will.
Yeah. Plus, if you want people to ask about serious issues or even anything in particular, unspoken rule is you write any questions on your last slide, and you can suggest. So you could be or if you're running out of time, you can be like, oh, just ask us about this at the end. So, oh, we're going to deal with these. If you want to know how we're going to deal with them, ask us at the end, because you have got time for questions.
Yeah, I was going to say, add to that, just if your show's really not very production heavy and you don't have lots else to talk about, then talk about it in your spoken pitch by all means, because people will like to know that you've prepared.
Better to say too much than too little.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you go over time.
But then you can always ask for people to bring up your questions.
Yeah.
No.
You need to get in touch with the rights companies beforehand. You need to make sure they're available and have preferably an email saying that they are, that you can prove to committee.
Just go for it. You can't pull out of the pitch because you haven't had that email back yet.
But it will be most likely that you'll then get a conditional yes if they wanted to choose you, and then pitches will probably be reopened. But but you'd have to be very honest and be like, look, I've emailed them, I've still not heard.
Realistically, if it says it's available on the website and you can't think of a reason why it wouldn't be available, it's probably available. However, Edinburgh's a special case, but for shows here, that's generally the way. Just it's always better to check by firing up an email.
They're also normally pretty speedy to tell you whether or not they're available at that moment.
Yeah.
It's like much more. The time at which they get slow is when you're like, can I apply for these rights, please? And then they have to like check that no one, like, there's been a couple of, so Party, it was free when we pitched, and then we applied for our rights, and then they were like, no, we're kind of giving them to someone else, sorry. So it's that kind of thing where you lose your rights, but they're normally pretty quick. And you can always just phone them and be like, oi!
Even that was because we had to get it checked off by the writer rather than the actual rights company themselves. So.
They're normally pretty speedy.
Yes, absolutely yes, get the rights. You can't perform the show without the rights.
Unless
You can't even cast a show without the rights.
Yeah, we got into trouble with casting 1984 before we had a rights confirmation. So what happens then is that you have the issue of committee then got to decide whether to completely scrap your show, to keep the show, move the time and recast, or just to move the show entirely, which is what we ended up doing, but it becomes a massive issue if you've already cast, because it's like, well, now what do we do? So make sure.
There's some companies that will let you pay like a holding deposit, and in that case I'd go to committee and ask them what they think. But generally, if you've not like actively signed your license, you probably shouldn't cast.
You shouldn't be casting. But to be honest, if they've asked you to pay for it, then the rights are available. So it will probably be fine.
Anything else?
It would be.
Yes.
Yeah, certain things are out of copyright, so it's basically
75 years, isn't it?
How long
75
was it,
years.
Emily, when you rewrote Spring?
It was 70 years after the death of the playwright, but it's different for different
and in
countries.
in America, it can be extended and extended as well. So
But
at the end of the day,
but after death.
if you Google something and then the word rights, you will probably find out. If someone is selling the rights, you can't do it for free. If no one is selling the rights and you can find 10 billion scripts, then you can probably do it for free.
Just the one thing to be careful of with that, not really like really be careful, is if you're going through things like Samuel French, they will just have copies of the script regardless of whether or not they have the rights. So in particular, Sam French and Nick Hearn, which are the two places where we get most of our show rights from, will just have copies of the script. So they might actually be out of copyright and you can do them for free, or they might just not have the rights entirely so that you can't do them anyway. So you just have to be really careful if you're going to do a righted play. Read the page really carefully and make sure.
And make sure you're on the UK website as well, because
That's
some things are available in America and not here,
And vice versa.
and vice versa.
Guys, I believe there is a library.
What? Not in my day.
There is a library of plays that you can read.
What?
There's even a link on the website.
We've even
I made
got
that.
our librarian.
Who's in charge of that?
You.
Don't know.
You're in charge of that.
It's me.
JV's in charge of that.
List of everything available on the website under the resources page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you know what kind of thing you want to pitch and how many people you want, like Sam French has filters, so that's how we found the Games of Footers. We were like, well, we want a comedy that's not got very many people in it, and then we looked through everything, and it was the least shit one.
Also, taking us to the end of that, if you really want to pitch a show but you don't have an idea, because that's a thing that happens, speak to people. Like me and Emily were having the chat earlier today. It's just that because there are so many plays, not everyone knows all of the plays. So just ask people about the plays and they will help you, especially TG Committee. That is their job, is to help you find the plays.
Also,
do the plays!
Yeah, if you go to Edinburgh, go just see some
Yes.
cool shit, because at the end of the day, there'll probably be something that we do next year that someone's seen in Edinburgh. So just
Do
go
the
and see some
plays!
shows.
Do the plays.
Do the plays.